Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for watching. And I just thought I would put together this little video after getting home from work today. I've been noticing in the news, without being able to look at it very much at work today, that the coronavirus situation is getting really serious, and it seems like it's unfolding hour per hour at this point. A lot of things are closing up, a lot of events are shutting down, and I've pulled up a series of articles that I'm just going to go over. And I skimmed through them really quickly, so I kind of highlighted some material, but I thought I would just kind of start with the speech that was given by the president last night. I'm not going to play the video, but I'm just going to show the video that I watched on YouTube without playing it. And basically, it says here that in a primetime address from the Oval Office, US President Trump announced a series of measures to tackle the coronavirus pandemic, including banning travel from Europe to the United States for 30 days starting on Friday at midnight. The ban would exclude the United Kingdom. It also will exclude Ireland, by the way. And this swiftly mounting effort to contain the outbreak and financial fallout intensified on a grueling day as the number of confirmed cases of the infection topped 1,000 in the US, and the World Health Organization declared that the global crisis is now a pandemic. Communities nationwide canceled public events in the hopes of halting the spread of the infection. And there's a lot of things that are going on. The stock market is absolutely in free fall right now. It's the worst that it experienced the worst free fall since back in 1987. Excuse me. So I thought I would show a little bit of that. But this was the speech that was given. I just typed in Trump's speech, and right now it is currently 3:12 of 2020. Time is 5:56 p.m. and I'm on Eastern Standard Time. So I would assume if you're watching this in the next couple of days, you can just simply type that in and it'll pull up a list of the speeches. It ran about 10 minutes, so that's clearly not going to be it. That one would be it. Let's see. I'm not sure if that one would be it. Yeah, that one will be included. That's on NBC News. So yeah, so there's a lot of sources on YouTube for you to go and watch the speech. But I would definitely encourage you to watch it because it's kind of frightening, to be honest. And um, I follow politics pretty closely, and given the speech that occurred last night, it just sounded a little bit unnerving, to say the least. It just sounds like that we're in for some pretty rough times coming up. It's not going to be a good summer, and hopefully, I live in Tampa Bay, so let's all pray that nobody gets hit by a hurricane in the Gulf Coast or on the East Coast, for that matter. And hopefully, the outbreak aside, hopefully we will get through this year as uneventfully as possible, because they are talking about infusing large amounts of money into a number of different things across our government and our private sector. They're talking about trying to pass legislation right now in order to allow people to go home sick who don't have any sick time filled up, or they don't have any sick time available at all at their job. So hopefully they'll get that passed. I believe they were supposed to get something done by the end of today. I believe I do have an article up here somewhere that kind of touches on that. So the next thing that I pulled up here is the interactive map of coronavirus, the COVID-19 global cases, by the Center of, let's see, the World Health Organization, essentially. And it is interactive, so you can kind of click on, obviously this is China. When you click on it, it tells you how many confirmed cases there are. I do believe this map is pretty outdated, maybe less than 24 hours outdated. And I say that because this next link will show a different number than the total confirmed here. But this will give you a pretty rough idea as to how widespread it is. And I mean, if you click on France, for instance, 2,281, I assume as of today. And you can just go pretty much anywhere in the world and just click on a link. I can't remember who it was. I don't believe it was the president. It was some politician who came up positive for coronavirus, who I guess our president had some interaction with, I believe, in the last few days. So I'd be curious to find out what happens with that story as it unfolds. So, and then of course they have the United States broken up into different areas, and I'm sure the more you zoom in, the more localized it gets. I live in Tampa Bay, so no, it looks like it just includes the entire state of Florida. So yeah, if you want, you could just, this is on the Orlando Sentinel's site, I believe, click orlando.com. And I just simply Googled, let's see, what did I Google? It was pretty simple, coronavirus interactive map. So, and the one that I clicked on was right here. And I also tried this link, and it also has the exact same map. So if you're interested in checking it out, there's a couple places for you to go to see. And then moving on to this next one, this is on worldometer.info. Again, I'm not sure how accurate this number is. It is definitely higher than the previous map that I showed you, with 134,358 confirmed cases worldwide. Currently 4,969 deaths, rather. And out of the ones who have contracted coronavirus, 68,898 have believed to have been recovered. And these are documented cases. So this doesn't include, obviously, the people that have contracted the virus and they decided to just hunker down inside their house. Maybe they believe they have the flu. Maybe they just think they have a nasty cold and they didn't go to the hospital. They didn't get tested. They just stayed home and wrote it out. So I think it's pretty clear that this number would actually be much, much higher if every single case had been reported. So, and again, you can go to this webpage here. There's the info to go to this page. And this thing actually scrolls down like a long way. I mean, it shows all kinds of detailed information. So that's why I'm kind of leaning toward this number being pretty legit, because they itemize every individual case, it seems, throughout every country, every region. I didn't really scroll down this far. So yeah, see, it looks like this is United States updates. So, and they kind of go down state by state, how many cases were reported. They don't say exactly what the time frame is. I guess I would just take it as let's see, last updated March 12th, 2020 at 21:25 GMT. So I haven't actually, here, let me try to refresh it and see if the number jumps any. Yeah, see, the number actually climbed. So it appears as though this is an official number. I'm not really familiar with Worldometer. It'd be nice if they had some direct link to, I don't know, CDC or World Health Organization. I'm not sure, but there you have it. That's what appears to be the current number worldwide. And then moving on to the next article, the World Health Organization official says that 80% of coronavirus cases will involve mild symptoms. So this is kind of a sign of good news, I guess, as far as the health situation around the world. And this individual goes on to say that 80% of those who are infected with the new coronavirus, COVID-19, will have cases involving mild symptoms. The World Health Organization spokesman Tariq Jasarevic, sorry, I'm going to butcher this. I'm really bad with foreign names. I apologize. Tariq Jasarevic. I actually work with a Tariq, so I know how to pronounce that. Tough last name, though. And he went on an interview on America's Newsroom with hosts Ed Henry and Sandra Smith, and Jasarevic said that his advice to the American public during the pandemic is the same for every person on this planet. There are basic things you can do to protect yourself, to protect your community, he explained. First, hand hygiene. We know how this virus is being transmitted. We know that you will get infected by introducing the virus through your nose, your mouth, or your ear, and that will happen most likely by touching your face with your hands after you have picked up the virus on some surface. A new study published and the MedRxiv depository suggests that the virus can remain in the air for up to 3 hours, and it can remain alive on surfaces such as plastic and stainless steel for up to 3 days. So that's definitely significant. So I guess you would just have to be extra careful, especially when you're out in the public areas, to not touch anything unless it is absolutely vital and necessary. Me personally, I'm not going to be going to any restaurants anytime soon, but if you have to go because you have an event to go to, or you have relatives in town, or whatever you might be doing, I mean, if it were me, I would probably bring along some sanitary wipes inside a sandwich bag and probably wipe down the table as best I could, at least wipe down the menu. If a server sets down a drink in front of me, I'd probably would pick it up with a wipe and kind of wipe around it. I don't know. It sounds OCD. It sounds insane. And a lot of people would make fun of other people if they observe them behaving like this in the restaurant. But it only takes just a few of these virus cells, I would assume, to completely contract the virus as a whole. So those are the precautions I would take personally. But I mean, if you go shopping, if you go grocery shopping, or if you even go to the shopping mall, don't touch anything unless you absolutely plan on buying it. I mean, what's the point in taking a risk by picking up something if you don't really have any intention on buying it? Instead, you just want to check it out, look at it. I mean, I just don't see the point behind that. So anyway, that concludes this section of this article that I found on here. So a little bit of good news. The rest that I'm going to talk about, not so much good news, but we'll move on regardless. So on this one, this is what happened to the stock market on Thursday. And unless you've been sleeping under a rock the last couple of days, you may have heard that the stock market is absolutely tanking. It's going right down the toilet, quick, fast, in a hurry. Today was the worst single day loss the stock market had experienced since 1987. Actually, the worst week. I believe the entire stock market has lost about 20% of its value, which is really, really scary. I mean, that should scare you. Hopefully it'll bounce back. I don't know exactly what this means long term. I mean, of course, the markets, they've gone down in the past. Most of us remember the 2008 financial crisis. I'm sure most of us don't agree how they handled that. I think it was complete insanity that they bailed out Wall Street with not really any consequences, and CEOs and executives were writing themselves $50 million checks for bonuses. Absolutely insane. But I don't know if it was in this article, but they kind of touch on that. So let me go ahead and read this and see if they explain that here. And if they don't, then I'll just kind of really briefly go over what I heard or what I had read in the last hour or two. So here's what happened to the stock market on Thursday. The Dow Jones Industrial Average tanks 2,352 points. Now, back at the beginning of this week, or it may have been Friday of last week, if I'm not mistaken. It could have even been Thursday of last week, but the stock market fell about 1,200 points in one day, which, according to what I read, was the largest single day point drop, at least on the Dow Jones, in stock market history. So to kind of compare that to what happened today, that was 1,200 points last week. Now we're looking at 2,352 points that fell today. So here's the Dow Jones Industrial Average on Google. If you just type in Dow Jones Live, not Dow Jones Live. Not sure how that got there, but yeah, you click on it, it takes you right here. This is the one-day graph. So it's this morning at 9:30 a.m. when the stock market began. It was at 22,184 points. And as the day moved on, it kind of roller coastered a little bit, basically going down, and then it kind of had a spike around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, lifting up to 22,662. And then for the rest of the day, it just kind of went down and down and down. And right before the market closed, it just dropped another chunk. So not good at all. And if you look back here in the last month, that's even scarier. I mean, look at this. Thursday, February 13th of this year, mind you, just last month, the stock market was flirting with 30,000 on the Dow. It's just baffling. It's mind-boggling to me how fast the stock market dropped because of this coronavirus outbreak. It's unbelievable. Definitely something to be nervous of, especially if you have 401ks. But from what I've heard from podcasters, from experts on certain news organizations and media sites, they are trying to reassure the public that the stock market will come back. This isn't going to go away forever. And that's been the case with 1987, the same with 2008, even going back to 1929. I mean, the stock market eventually comes back. It usually takes a pretty good series of events to bring it back up, but nevertheless, it's going to go back up. So these people who are panic selling right now, I mean, I don't know, unless you're elderly, I could understand why you'd want to dump some of your stock because, you might not be around for very much longer anyway. Not to say that they're going to contract the virus. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that, maybe they want to just cash out and enjoy what time they have left. Them assuming maybe they don't have enough time just to wait for the market to eventually bounce back up to where it will be some point in the future. But yeah, I mean, if I had investments in the stock market, I certainly would not be selling right now. I mean, don't take my advice because I'm not a financial expert, but I mean, I'm 35 years old. If I have stuff in the stock market, I would just let it sit. Hopefully I'll still be around in 10 years and hopefully my stocks will be right back to where they were now, if not much better. So I don't know. Anyway, that's what the stock market's looking like right now. And again, Dow Jones Live, Google it, and you can see this interactive chart if that suits your fancy. So going back here, The Dow plummeted 2,352 points today, or let's call it 10%, to close at 21,200 points. The S&P 500 dropped 9.5% to 2480, and the Nasdaq Composite fell 9.43%, down to 7201. Stocks got roiled again on Thursday as the U.S. government failed to assuage fears of the coronavirus outbreak, denting economic growth. Let's see, the S&P 500 joins the Dow in bear market. S&P 500 closed Thursday's session in a bear market, joining the Dow and trading more than 20% below a record high set last month. On Wednesday night, President Donald Trump announced the administration would provide financial relief for workers who are ill, caring for others due to the virus, or are quarantined. However, these moves were not specific enough for investors who were looking for a more robust fiscal response to curb potentially slower economic growth stemming from the coronavirus. The bottom line, Wall Street wants a substantial fiscal stimulus package to fend off a pronounced economic downturn. Otherwise, expect stocks to keep falling. And that's where I'll stop right there. That's what I was speaking of. Wall Street is now wanting a fiscal stimulus package, a substantial one. And I don't see how that could possibly stop the bleeding, because people are going to continue to cancel their flights. They're going to continue to not go on cruises. They're going to continue to cancel their vacations. They're going to stay home. They're not going to go out to eat as much. So the entire market is going to keep going down for quite a while until we bounce back from this coronavirus event. I don't think, even if they infused $1 trillion, even $5 trillion, if they just flooded the stock market with hard cash, I don't think it wouldn't make any difference. It's just going to keep going down. I mean, think about it. If everybody who was investing and selling off yesterday and sell yesterday, today, for example, and then tomorrow morning they wake up and are like, oh, wow, look at that. The Dow Jones, all the numbers, it's back up to 28,500. Oh, it's almost at 29,000 right now. Oh, okay. So yeah, there it is. The fiscal stimulus package was kicked in by the federal government last night. So great, it's back up again. Do you really think by observing a number on a screen that people who were freaking out the day before would not continue to be selling off today? I would give that a 99% probability that people will continue to sell, no matter how much money the government pours into the stock market. And anything that they would infuse into there, I would say would almost certainly just vanish eventually. So I really hope they don't go for that. I seriously doubt our president would even do that anyway. But I mean, I don't know. I just kind of got a little irritated when I saw that. I was like, wow, man, they got some nerve saying something like that. I mean, I know they want to stop the bleeding, and I know it's going to get worse and worse, but I mean, pouring money into it isn't going to solve the problem. I mean, curing the virus is what's going to solve the problem. I mean, this isn't a housing crisis. This isn't something where adjustable mortgage rates just kicked in and their mortgage percentages just skyrocketed overnight, and all of a sudden people have to go into default on their mortgages. This isn't a financial issue. This is a public health issue. I mean, everybody's closing up, everybody's shutting down, and that's really what I'm going to move on to for the remainder of these articles. Now, it looks like I still have a long way to go, but I'm not going to touch much on each one of these. I already went through this one. So this next one, I'm sure many people have already heard this. I heard this last night. But last night they said the NCAA canceled. They didn't cancel the games, but they canceled general public attendance into the games, into March Madness as a whole, the Final Four, all of the basketball games through the spring season. But now it appears that the NCAA has canceled the men's and women's basketball tournament altogether due to coronavirus concerns. And I believe they did that because of what the NBA had done. So let me see here. The NCAA will not crown a men's or women's basketball champion in 2020, conceding defeat to the COVID-19 virus and a cascade of uncertainty about how bad its ongoing spread might impact public health across the United States. The NCAA announced Thursday all its winter and spring championships have been canceled after a series of moves across multiple sports leagues that foreshadowed the eventual arrival at this decision. And I think there was the Big 12 in all regular season games, recruiting both on and off campus and out of season practices, are suspended until March the 29th. But yeah, the NCAA tournament, it's not happening this year, and I'm sure a lot of people are upset. Hopefully things like this doesn't cause a full-on public panic. I hope not. I just hope it encourages people to just, stay home, watch Netflix, shack up, conserve your money, just, buy what you need. Don't go hog wild. Don't go crazy. Just ride the thing out. Try not to get sick and shop online. I mean, I don't really want to endorse anybody, but pretty often, like I have two cats, and to get my cat litter, I go on Walmart.com because I get like these big buckets of 30-pound, the 30-pound tidy cat buckets of cat litter. And if I order 3 of them, my shipping's free because anything over $30, maybe I think it was $35 on Walmart.com, it ends up being free 2 day. So it's just kind of me being lazy. Instead of lugging 90 pounds worth of cat litter that I'm going to use over the next few months, I would just order it online and it just gets dropped off at my doorstep. But in addition to pet supplies, they also have lots of different types of food. I think you could even buy and order things like paper towels, toilet paper, and stuff on there. This weekend, I'll probably look into doing that personally, just to see if there's some stuff that I can order home as a possible way to avoid going to the grocery store, just in case. But they've only found 2 cases in my county, in Pinellas County, that they've confirmed, although I haven't looked since last night, so it could be higher, but still relatively low in my area, and I hope it's as low as possible in your area too. So anyway, moving on to the NBA. Let's see, this is on ESPN.com. The NBA suspends its season until further notice after a player tests positive for the coronavirus, and this news was just announced last night. Let's see, this article was published at 9:38 p.m. last night, so this was put out just after the president's speech, and I believe he gave his speech, I think at 9 o'clock sharp, if I'm not mistaken. So let's see, the NBA suspended its season after a Utah Jazz player tested positive Wednesday for the coronavirus. The NBA is suspending gameplay following the conclusion of Wednesday's schedule of games until further notice. The league said in a statement issued shortly after 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, quote, "The NBA will use this hiatus to determine next steps for moving forward in regarding to the coronavirus pandemic," end quote. The player is Rudy Gobert of the Jazz, sources told ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski. You can fill that in. I apologize. That led to Utah's game in Oklahoma City being postponed just before tip-off. The NBA is expected to address next steps with teams when it conducts a call with the Board of Governors at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time Thursday. So clearly that already happened because it's 6:17 p.m. right now, and that's Eastern Time as well. So if you're interested in looking into that, you can go on there and find out. Most of this is just Mark Cuban kind of freaking out. I'm not a big fan of Mark Cuban. I just think he's a little too noisy. But anyway, if you're interested in reading any more of that, it's here on ESPN. Again, I think I went on. Let's see if I can click back one more time without screwing this up. Yeah, I just type in NBA suspended. That was the article, first one that came up. I just clicked on it, decided to go through it. So let's see, the next article here. All right, this is when it starts getting a little crazy. These events have been confirmed, postponed, or canceled due to coronavirus. And this is quite a long list. I only highlighted the ones that I was most familiar with, but if you'd like, I would encourage you to check that out. Again, you can Google this. You can, let me just, hopefully I don't screw this up too. But yeah, I just typed in canceled events list nationwide. And that's the link here, northstarmeetingsgroup.com. That's the one I clicked on. But since I highlighted some text, I'll just forward it and see if it's still there. All right, so you got stuff like the National Credit Union Management Association, Satellite 2020, at which Elon Musk will be the keynote speaker. They've postponed that, I believe. These industry events will take place or were held as planned. So these did either occur or they are going to occur. So these aren't going to be affected by coronavirus, and I assume that these are happening either fairly soon, except that one says April 6th to 8th, so I would expect them to cancel that. I'm sure a lot of stuff is going to get canceled over the weekend and into next week. So these events have been canceled or moved or postponed. Starting out here with the E3, the world's largest video game convention and trade show, scheduled for June 9th through 11th in Los Angeles, has been canceled. And that's actually a couple of months from now, so I'm actually surprised that they decided to go for that now. And that just goes to show how long term that this epidemic is expected to last. I mean, we're kind of in it for the long haul, folks. And moving on to the next one. On March 11th, the NBA announced, we already know that, they'd suspend the season indefinitely. Uh, the Greater New York Automobile Dealers Association announced the postponement of the New York International Auto Show. It will now take place August 28th through September 6th. Quote, for 120 years, the show must go on has been heavily embedded in our DNA. And while the decision to move the show dates didn't come easy, our top priority remains with the health and well-being of all those involved in this historic event, said Mark Scheinberg, president of the GNYADA. And then moving on, Coachella, that's going to be postponed. They moved it back, let's see, from October 9th through October 11th, and then the next weekend from October 16th through the 18th. And they're expecting more than 250,000 people to show up to that. So, I mean, you can see it's no wonder why they would cancel that. Plus, from what I've seen online, it just doesn't look like a place that would be very sanitary. I think somebody who strolled in there with coronavirus, I think a lot of people would be leaving with it. So I think that was an excellent call for them to postpone that. And let's see, TED 2020, Uncharted, originally scheduled to be held in Vancouver on April 20th through 24th, has been postponed to July 20th through 26th. Or they might make it a fully virtual event, meaning that you can still, quote unquote, attend it, but you can just watch a series of videos, TED Talks, and all that stuff that they do during that event. And the South by Southwest in Austin's massive tech, music, and film festival, scheduled for March 13th to 22nd, has been canceled. The decision came after Austin Mayor Steve Adler declared a local disaster in the city and issued an order canceling the conference. So it wasn't even up to them. The mayor actually ordered it canceled. McDonald's has turned its worldwide convention, scheduled for April at Orlando's Orange County Convention Center, into an online-only event. And I would expect, to be honest with you, a lot of these events, perhaps not the ones that are happening so soon, or possibly even including those, you might see a lot of these end up being an online-only event where they might allow you to pay a discounted price to access the content, or maybe if you're a current ticket holder, you can get on there for free. And I'm sure at a later date, I don't know if they're going to refund tickets. I'm not sure what their plans are for all these, but I'm just going over the bare basics here. A lot of other events here, Ace Hardware 2020 Spring Convention. I'm not familiar with these, to be honest, so I just kind of skip past them. The NXT Global Summit, which expected to attract about 1,000 attendees focusing on emerging trends in technology and media, has been canceled. It was scheduled for July 14th to 15th at the Las Vegas Convention Center. I mean, I just think it's crazy that going all the way into July, they're canceling events. And let's move on. The Adobe Summit, software company's customer and employee conference, scheduled to take place March 29th through April 2nd in Las Vegas, will now be an online-only event. Google I/O. This is a pretty big thing for Google. The tech giant's developer event, expected to bring 7,000 attendees to the Shoreline Amphitheater in Mountain View, California on March 14th to 16th, has been canceled. Moving on, the Google Cloud Next, expected to take place April 6th to 8th at San Francisco's Moscone Center and attract 30,000 people, has become Google Cloud Next 20 Digital Connect. So clearly they're moving it online. So that is an event that will move on, but without an audience. Seafood Expo North America, Seafood Processing North America, expected to attract more than 22,000 people in Boston on March 15th to 17th, has been postponed. And they don't have a date in the future, so if you're interested, you might have to do some searching on your own for that one. Facebook canceled this year's edition of its F8 Developers Conference, previously scheduled for May 5th through 6th in San Jose, and expected to attract more than 5,000 people. NVIDIA has canceled GTC, its GPU Technology Conference, scheduled for March 22 to 26 at the San Jose Convention Center, making it online only. So the show will go on, but again, without attendees. The Game Developers Conference, scheduled to take place at San Francisco's Moscone Center, was canceled. And this gets into international events here. So they will touch on some other events that I would assume that Americans are familiar with and may be attending. that they would add to this list. But that's the list that I have for those events. And now moving on over here to CNN.com, coronavirus has halted these concerts, festivals, and movie premieres. So I'm going to get into specific concerts and festivals and movie premieres. This isn't going to take very long, I don't think. See, I didn't highlight Coachella because I already talked about it, South by Southwest. The Ultra Music Festival, that happens in my state. Huge event, sells out every year, all 3 days. I've looked into it before. I haven't gone, but I know if you get an all 3 day package, ticket package, and if you get VIP, if I'm not mistaken, you're paying north of I think it was somewhere around $1,000 a ticket for just the general admission for all 3 days put together. Last I saw a couple of years ago, it was something like $600 or $700. So it's a really expensive event, but it still almost always sells out, if not always. And the 3-day electronic music festival has been postponed until March 26, 27, and 28 of 2021. So they're essentially canceling it this year altogether from its original dates of March 20, 21, 22 of this year. So I don't know why they're saying they're postponing it. They might as well just say they're canceling it altogether because they hold this every year. And then they published a tweet here that those interested could read if you'd like. Emerald City Comic Con, it's moved the event from March 12th to March 15th to, as of yet, unannounced dates this summer. Nearly 100,000 people were looking forward to that event. And then concerts include Pearl Jam, BTS, Mariah Carey, Madonna, Green Day. Let's see. Avril Lavigne, Sierra, not familiar with her. Miley Ray Cyrus. So a lot of those pop music artists out there, they're canceling shows left and right, it appears. Moving down to film and TV, No Time to Die, the 25th James Bond film's opening in the United States has been delayed until November 25th. And November 25th, kind of significant because the original date was April the 10th for it to hit theaters, and they're pushing it back for, the better part of half a year, which I thought was crazy. So those who are huge James Bond fans, sorry to tell you, but looks like they're going to put that off. But it makes me wonder, the movies are starting now with the James Bond film, so now they're going to start pulling movies out of the box office. So what would be next? They're going to start shutting down movie theaters. Maybe not. I'm not sure, but if they do, you can imagine this domino effect that may start taking place. Movie theaters may start shutting down because, fairly large crowds of people go in there, like maybe 100 people on a good day would pack the theater. I'm not talking a sold out movie, Friday night on April the 10th to see this film, just a typical day at the movies. If they start closing down movie theaters, restaurants, they pull in crowds just like movie theaters do. Shopping malls, the same thing. This is kind of scary, folks. I don't know. Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune. Sources close to the popular game shows tell CNN they will be taping episodes without audiences. And that is only 2 of many. And I have a longer list here of TV shows that will be taping with no live studio audience. And here's the list. This is just in New York and LA, by the way. Today, Wendy Williams Show, The View, Live with Kelly and Ryan, Full Frontal, Samantha Bee, Late Night with Seth Meyers, The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon, The Daily Show with Trevor Noah, Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen, and in LA they have Jeopardy, Wheel of Fortune, and The Ellen DeGeneres Show. I always get her name messed up. So I don't really know what this means exactly. I don't watch John Oliver anymore. I did like a few years ago, but I know his show well enough to know that if there's no audience there to laugh at his punchlines, it's going to sound really, really awkward. So I'm hoping they'll at least attempt to trick us and just throw in laugh tracks. I assume that's what they're going to do. The show will be absolutely beyond cringy to watch if they don't throw in something like a laugh track. Just an audience just laughing at every punchline that he makes. So I assume that's what they're going to do with all these shows. Because clearly, like Wendy Williams' show, I don't know how much they laugh, but I know they cheer a lot. I'm not too familiar with that show, but I know it's just one of those weekday morning shows where the crowd cheers, I don't know, what, every 3 minutes. So, anyway, those are the shows that have been canceled. And one of the big ones that I was surprised to see, which I think was just canceled or shut down today, if not yesterday. I just saw this today, but it looks like Disneyland is closing amid the coronavirus pandemic. And this is Disneyland in California. So the Disney parks that were in Asia, I believe they've already closed those, but this one is officially closing. Oh, yeah, in Anaheim. That's where it is. It's in Anaheim. Disney has temporarily closed its California theme park starting March 14th through the end of the month because of the coronavirus outbreak. The move to shutter its park comes as the novel virus continues to rapidly spread across the country. And it's unclear if Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida will remain open. And let me just say that if they're closing Disneyland, they will be closing Walt Disney World. I mean, you mark my words. I would say either within the next 24 hours, or maybe if the number of cases in Florida reaches 100. Last I heard, I believe Florida had 23 confirmed cases, two of which were in my county. In the Orlando area, I think it was less than five. It was a very small number. So I don't know if they might be waiting for cases to spring up in that area before they shut it down. But yeah, I mean, if they're shutting down Disneyland, yeah, it would really surprise me if they leave Disney World open for very much longer. So if you have any plans of going to Disney World, I mean, clearly if you do, you're going to stay on top of this news. But I mean, if you know anybody who's scheduled to go to Disneyland who doesn't really care about the news and they don't really follow much of this stuff, you might want to get a hold of them and let them know, even if they have tickets to Disney World, because they're probably going to be shutting that down too. So I thought that was pretty significant news to read as to what happened today, or maybe last night. I'm not sure. I'm not going to read every single word of this article, but the important thing to know is that they'd shut the doors for Disneyland. Crazy. And getting down into the local areas. So I was looking at everything nationwide. There were even some international events that I did not cover, but I stuck to nationwide things, TV shows and concerts, events, conventions, things of that nature. And I kind of wondered if they're showing all this stuff that's going on across the country, what does it look like down into your local area? And I would definitely encourage you to Google that. Let me see what kind of lingo that I used for my Google search. You can just plug in your city here, canceled events coronavirus, and this popped up right away, and it gave me everything I needed to know. And best of all, from what I've noticed, it was updated just 3 hours ago. So it's a pretty current list of events that have been canceled. So in my local area, Tampa Bay, coronavirus event cancellations here. Let me start from the top. No, I don't want to do that. Okay. So it starts with stuff like spacecraft launch. Let's see. Well, the first one I highlighted is Cher. The iconic singer has pushed back her March 26th concert at Amalie Arena due to coronavirus. The Tampa Bay Rays and the Major League Baseball. Sorry, I was kind of seeing if I missed anything in Cher. All right, so the Major League Baseball has suspended spring training games and delayed the start of the regular season at least 2 weeks in response to the coronavirus pandemic. Opening day was originally slated for 2 weeks from today, March 26th, with the Rays set to host the Pirates at Tropicana Field. And I will come back to this in a minute because there is more somewhat related information regarding this news below. And Tampa Bay's Airfest. This thing is huge. There are well over 100,000 people that show up to this thing. It gets so insanely crowded that I've only been once because it is an absolute nightmare. Not only for parking, but just for traveling to MacDill Air Force Base. They shut down the whole base. These are the Thunderbirds, and they put on an awesome show. It's every May. Or no, it's March. I believe it used to be in May. But anyway, huge event. It's free to anybody who wants to show up. I don't think they turn anybody away. There's no technically sold out number of people. They just let people just pour in, and believe me, it's got to be over 100,000 people that show up. It is just crazy crowded. Fighter jets flying around everywhere. It's really cool. They do this full-on air show. It's a really spectacular event, and I'm sure anybody who lives near a sizable Air Force base probably has events like this that go on in their local area, which they are probably canceling as well. But our Airfest has been canceled, which I'm sure upsets a lot of people in our local area. The St. Patrick's Day Festival's here. The Tampa traditional St. Patrick's Day celebration, the River O' Green Festival, scheduled to take place downtown on Saturday, has been postponed in light of the coronavirus outbreak. City and county officials announced at a meeting on Thursday. No new date has been set. I would not expect them to set a new date because I don't think it would be very practical to have a St. Patrick's Day festival in September. And moving on, the Tampa Bay Lightning. The team's game tonight was supposed to be Pride Night in Amalie Arena, but the NHL has followed the NBA's example and suspended the season indefinitely. So that's why I said I was going to plug back into the Rays and the Major League Baseball's article here, because I don't think, at least I haven't read yet, maybe they have and I just didn't catch the article in time when I started recording this, but the Tampa Bay Lightning and the NHL as a whole, as well as the NBA as a whole, has canceled their entire seasons. So for the entire league, it's canceled. So I would not be surprised if the MLB comes out and delivers a similar decision, but maybe they have already and I just didn't catch it. But this is crazy. I mean, they're canceling sports, for crying out loud. I mean, when people stay home and they don't have anything else better to do, they just follow whatever's playing in the sports world. And I don't watch sports at all. I don't follow sports. I mean, I follow the Lightning on occasion. I don't have cable, so I don't really watch them game after game. I do sometimes subscribe to certain packages available online. I did last year, and I think I watched probably 70% of the season. But yeah, this year I haven't stayed very involved with them, unfortunately. Work's been busy too. So anyway, moving down here, the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Pete. This is the kickoff for the IndyCar circuit that will occur throughout the year. This is the first race, and this is a series of races that tie into the Indy 500, for example. I'm sure a couple of you out there has heard of the Indy 500, but they are, let me just read it. After previously reassuring the public the event was, quote, still a go, Mayor Rick Kreisman on Thursday said the city is canceling general admission at the Grand Prix and was working with promoters to decide whether the race itself would proceed. And that has been pretty heavy in our local news for the last few days because people just kept wondering, are they going to call it? Are they going to let it go on? They kept saying that all plans were to move ahead. And then I saw this atomic bomb that just fell on St. Pete. I mean, this thing is an enormous event for St. Pete. It's huge. It attracts something like 115 or 120,000 people down to the area. I mean, this is literally downtown. They closed down downtown and they turned downtown into a racetrack. So you can imagine all the high rises in the sky. They're technically skyscrapers, but lots of these really tall buildings that are 20, 30, 40 stories tall, and many of which are condo buildings that people rent out. They rent out their own condo for the weekends, and they charge an arm and a leg because in many of these buildings, you get a bird's eye view of the track. And in some views, you get a view of probably half the track. And you don't even have to pay a ticket because you're technically living there. So, I mean, the hit that St. Pete's going to take from this economic wise, it's not going to be good. So, and that's just here in my local area. I mean, this is just Tampa Bay. We've got tons of cities all over my state, just like all the other states out there, all the other countries out there. I mean, the whole world seems to be shutting down. By the way, Martin Lawrence, he's canceling his stuff. The Rowdies, following Major League Soccer, the United Soccer League, to which the Tampa Bay Rowdies belong, has also suspended play for a minimum of 30 days. So the Major League Soccer is suspending for 30 days. Not indefinitely, as the other sports franchises have said. That looks like that's, Museum of Fine Arts in St. Pete. The museum itself is going to stay open, but they've canceled all their March programming. So any of those fancy $300 a plate meals that you plan on going to at this museum, you could pretty much consider it canceled. And then moving on here, that's pretty much it for all the cancellations that I came up with. I mean, tons and tons of stuff. I mean, stuff's getting canceled everywhere. It's crazy. It's really, really crazy. As my cat is meowing, Lonnie, jumping up here on the table, trying to interrupt me as she always does. All right, anyway. Now, this is pertaining to Republicans opposing Pelosi's coronavirus legislation, flagging major problems. Now, I'm not going to get into this very much because I don't want to talk politics or anything like that. I just thought I would highlight a couple of issues with this. I just want to highlight like what the bill entailed, not the drama behind what's going on with the bill. And let's see what we got here. It says that there's not going to be immediate broad bipartisan support for the pending bill unless it undergoes changes. And it said that the White House has, quote, serious concerns to help families deal with the economic hardships of the pandemic. I think namely the hourly workers who, like I said earlier, who they don't have sick time like banked back, or their workplace doesn't offer sick leave. And if they don't show up to work for a few days because they have coronavirus, they could, in effect, possibly be fired. Or if they don't fire them, which they could probably even pass a law stating that, you know, during this epidemic, your workplace can't fire you if you test positive for coronavirus. I'm sure something like that is in the works if it's not already out there, and I just don't know. But this is just mainly to protect workers out there who will not get paid if they don't show up. So I hope that they get that ironed out. They were supposed to at some point today. Among the White House concerns are increasing spending on Medicaid, which provides health care for low-income families without structural reforms, and not including language to ban federal funds for abortion, the official said. McCarthy said there's two major problems. First, creating a paid sick leave program through the Social Security Administration that would take 6 months to set up and hamper the agency's normal functioning of dispersing checks to senior citizens. The second is forcing permanent paid sick leave for all businesses without exemptions and no sunsets, McCarthy said. There was an interview on this program, and I believe that's the person that they were interviewing. It must be their ear inside inside Congress. The White House the White House also wanted a payroll tax holiday in the legislation, which Pelosi did not include. The 124-page bill was slated to be considered in the House Thursday before the House leaves for a recess at the end of the week. The new legislation builds on the $8.3 billion package that was passed earlier to tackle the public health response. That's pretty much it I have for that. I don't want to get into the weeds on that one, but what I just wanted to outline is that Congress is trying to work on passing legislation that's going to protect some of, you know, us little people during this period in which coronavirus is expected to ravage our economy, really slow down business. I mean, if you think about people who work in restaurants, people who work in shopping malls, places where you have to deal with but when you have to deal with person-to-person contact with the public at large, if nobody's going out shopping, nobody's going out to eat, your business is going to suffer some serious losses in the short term. So I don't know. Is it possible? Could the world financially shut down? I don't see how that's possible. People still got to go buy their food. The lights still have to be on. People still have to have their running water, their internet, and all that stuff. So I mean, closing large sectors of the economy would only give other businesses a leg up, such as hospitals and the healthcare industry in a time like this. I mean, they can only stand to gain in a situation like this. So let me see. The last thing I have here is just the CDC website. Again, something I'm not going to really get deep into, but if you go to cdc.gov, what I did, I just Googled prepare for coronavirus, and underneath the links here, the thumbnails, the article, top stories, was this one on the CDC website. Just to plan ahead, be ready. Shows you some good tips on cleaning and disinfecting, checklist to get your household ready, what you should do if you're sick. I think it may include you just locking yourself in your room for as long as possible and do not touch anything. Don't breathe on anybody. But yeah, just plan ahead, be ready. It goes into the details that they outline, the things that you can do to protect your house. I mean, I've got sanitizing wipes all over the place. I've got hand sanitizer, which they say is not a fail-safe against coronavirus by any means. They're saying that. Hang on. Kitty. Yeah, they're saying that it's going to be um, not ineffective completely, but they're saying not to totally count on the sanitizer. So I don't know how effective it is, but I bought dish soap, or well, I already have dish soap, but it's antibacterial dish soap, and I like using it because it just feels like my hands get a lot cleaner when I use that. So I don't know. I mean, this is something I'm going to read pretty soon also because clearly I need to get my house ready because I'm somewhat ill informed as well. But yeah, cleaning and disinfecting. Um, I'm sure they go over, I don't know about brands, but I believe they said that if you want to create your own sanitizer, yeah, alcohol solutions with a minimum of 70% alcohol for disinfection. Diluted household bleach solutions or alcohol solutions with at least 70% alcohol. Most common EPA registered household disinfectants should be effective. So they say here you can prepare a bleach solution by doing the following. This might be something to seriously read into, especially if you or somebody in your house gets sick with coronavirus, because they're probably going to tell you not to mix your laundry, or they'll be able to give you a step-by-step process as to how you could live in the same home as somebody who has the virus. And maybe if you follow this stuff closely enough, you might get lucky and avoid it. So anyway, that's pretty much all I've got, to be honest. I mean, I went through a lot of articles. I don't even know how much time that I spent doing this. Quite a bit, I'm sure. But anyway, that pretty much concludes everything. I hope everybody stays safe out there. Definitely do your preparations and definitely do your shopping. Don't get crazy. Don't be that idiot who goes out there and buys 150 gallons of water because you're going to freak out everybody else. And it's best if you just go and do just a little bit above normal shopping instead of buying 3 or 4 gallons that you would normally buy. Instead, buy 8 or 9 gallons. But to be honest with you, at this point, especially in hot spots such as in New York and Seattle and other certain locations that may have designated areas of emergency, they're probably starting to ration stuff. And they're doing that here in my area at our local Publix supermarket. They are restricting the amount of sanitizer wipes that you can buy. You can only buy 2. So it's already starting. So I would say if you haven't done it yet, I would go out and get your supplies. As far as cleaning supplies, I don't know. You might get lucky and your store might be unaffected, but it looks like our stores are starting to have some empty shelves when it comes to cleaning supplies. But I plan on going out this weekend and getting some bottles of bleach just in case that I run out of sanitizing wipes and I don't want to take the risk of going out in public and contracting the virus when I could just use a bleach solution at home. But yeah, I mean, if you haven't prepared at all for this yet, I mean, you got a lot of work ahead of you. I wish you the best of luck. I've already stockpiled a pretty good amount of food. I think I got at least a month's worth of food that I'm pretty comfortable with. Somewhere around 50 gallons of water so far, and most of this I stocked up on like 3 weeks ago. So, I mean, if the panic hasn't hit your area, I mean, I think it's going to happen fairly soon, especially after that speech that the president gave last night. That was really ominous. That kind of freaked me out. I mean, it had me thinking that the stores might be empty when I go in there this weekend, because I'm going to go back in there and see if I can get, my daily allotment of cleaning supplies, whatever it is. But anyway, I'm going to cut it there. I don't know if I'll post an update tomorrow. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. I'll just see if I'm in the mood for it. I was kind of in the mood of doing something today. I just downloaded this program and just got this computer, so I'm, just kind of gung ho of revamping my YouTube a little bit, getting a little bit going on there. So anyway, all right, until next time, I will see you later, and definitely be safe and be careful out there.